He was a king, a tyrant, and a man obsessed. You've heard the stories. But do you know the real Henry VIII? Beyond the grand portraits and the tales of a powerful monarch lies a story of ambition, love, betrayal, and a religious revolution that would change the world forever. From a handsome, athletic prince to a paranoid ailing king, Henry's life was a whirlwind of drama. He's most famous for one thing: his 6 wives. But why so many? What drove him to cast aside queens, fight, to pope, and even execute those he once loved? Today, we're diving deep into the turbulent reign of England's most notorious king. Get ready, because this story has it all. Let's start with the wives. It all began with Catherine of Aragon, a Spanish princess and Henry's first queen. She was originally married to his older brother, Arthur. When Arthur died, Henry married Catherine to secure the alliance with Spain. They were married for over 2 decades, but there was a huge problem. They had no surviving son, only a daughter, Mary. For Henry, a male heir wasn't just a desire, it was an obsession. He believed it was his duty to secure the Tudor dynasty. This obsession led his eyes to wander to a captivating lady-in-waiting, Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn was different. She was intelligent, witty, and refused to be just another royal mistress. She wanted to be queen, and she played her cards perfectly. Henry, completely infatuated, became desperate to annul his marriage to Catherine. He argued that marrying his brother's widow was against God's law, and that's why he was on being blessed with a son. He pleaded with the Pope, but the Pope, under pressure from Catherine's powerful nephew, the Holy Roman Emperor, refused. Henry's desire for Anne and an heir was so strong that he decided to do the unthinkable. This is where everything changes. Then Rome, Henry took matters into his own hands. In a move that sent shockwaves across Europe, he broke away from the Catholic Church. He declared himself the supreme head of the Church of England. This wasn't just a religious squabble, it was a revolution. He dissolved the monasteries, seizing their immense wealth and land, which he then used to reward his loyal supporters and fund his lavish lifestyle. England was now a Protestant nation, not because of a great theological debate among the people, but because the king wanted a divorce. Henry got his wish. His marriage to Catherine was annulled, and he was free to marry Anne Boleyn. So, Henry married Anne. She gave him a child, but it was another daughter, Elizabeth. The pressure was on. After a few miscarriages, Henry's infatuation with Anne turned to frustration and then to suspicion. He needed to get rid of her, but he couldn't just divorce another queen. So, Anne was accused of shocking crimes, including treason and adultery. The evidence was flimsy, likely fabricated, but that didn't matter. She was found guilty. Anne Boleyn, the woman who had changed the course of English history, was beheaded. It was a brutal and shocking end. Just days after Anne's execution, Henry married Jane Seymour. She was quiet and gentle, the opposite of Anne. And finally, she gave Henry what he had always wanted: a son, Edward. But this triumph was short-lived. Jane tragically died from complications shortly after childbirth. Henry was genuinely heartbroken. Of all his wives, he seems to have loved Jane the most. He even requested to be buried beside her. With his heir secured, Henry's next marriage was a political disaster. He was convinced to marry Anne of Cleves, a German princess, to form a political alliance. But when she arrived in England, Henry was not impressed. He famously called her the Flanders Mare. The marriage was awkward and unconsensual. Thankfully for Anne of Cleves, this meant the marriage could be ice. She wisely agreed, and Henry was so grateful that he gave her the title King's beloved sister, along with castles and a generous income. She lived out her days in comfort in England, faring much better than her predecessors. Next came Catherine Howard, a very young and vivacious cousin of Anne Boleyn. Henry, now in his late 40s and in poor health, was completely smitten with his rose without a thorn. But Catherine was young and careless. She had a past, and she began a reckless affair with one of Henry's courtiers. When the truth came out, Henry's rage was terrifying. Betrayed and humiliated, he showed no mercy. Catherine Howard followed her cousin to the executioner's block. His final wife was Catherine Parr, a mature widow who was more of a companion and nurse than a romantic partner for the aging, obese, and increasingly ill king. She was a kind stepmother to Henry's 3 children, Mary, Elizabeth, and Edward, and helped to reconcile them with their father. She was also a devout Protestant with reformist ideas, which almost got her into deep trouble. Her enemies at court tried to turn the paranoid king against her, but she cleverly managed to talk her way out of it, convincing Henry of her loyalty. She outlived him, surviving the terrifying game of being Henry VIII's wife. So, let's recap the famous rhyme. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Catherine of Aragon, divorced. Anne Boleyn beheaded. Jane Seymour died. Anne of Cleves divorced. Catherine Howard beheaded, and Catherine Parr survived. It is a chilling summary of one man's ruthless quest for a male heir and personal happiness, no matter the cost. The break with the Catholic Church was Henry's most significant act. By severing ties with the Pope, he didn't just get a divorce. He unleashed forces that would shape England's destiny for centuries. Creating the Church of England with himself at the head gave the English monarchy unprecedented power. Suddenly, the king controlled not just the state, but the religion of his people. The dissolution of the monasteries was a massive transfer of wealth and power from the church to the crown. This fundamentally changed the English landscape, both literally and politically. The power of the old feudal aristocracy was weakened, and a new class of gentry, loyal to the king, rose in their place. This decision plunged England into decades of religious turmoil that would last long after Henry was gone, leading to conflicts between Catholics and Protestants that defined the reigns of his children. To enforce these radical changes, Henry became a tyrant. He couldn't have dissent. Anyone who opposed him, who challenged his supremacy over the church or his royal will, was an enemy to be crushed. He used charges of treason to eliminate anyone who stood in his way, including his closest advisors. Sir Thomas More, his Lord Chancellor, and a man of great principle, was executed for refusing to accept Henry as the head of the church. Public executions became a tool of terror, a gruesome spectacle designed to ensure obedience and instill fear in the hearts of his subjects. The royal court, once a place of chivalry and celebration, became a nest of spies and suspicion. One wrong word, one misplaced allegiance, and you could find your head on the chopping block. As Henry VIII, his body began to fail him. A jousting accident in his youth had left him with a painful leg ulcer that plagued him for the rest of his life. He became enormously overweight, and his mobility was severely limited. His physical decline was matched by a mental one. He grew increasingly paranoid, trusting no one, and his temper became explosive and unpredictable. These final years were marked by pain, illness, and a deepening tyranny. The charismatic, athletic prince of his youth was gone, replaced by a bloated, suspicious, and fearsome monarch who ruled through fear. His legacy wasn't just a new church or a male heir. It was a legacy of fear that haunted the English court. In the end, what is Henry VIII's true legacy? He was a complex and contradictory figure, a Renaissance prince who loved music and learning, but also a brutal tyrant who executed his wives and friends. He secured his dynasty with a son, but plunged his kingdom into religious strife. His personal desires reshaped a nation's faith and political landscape forever. He left behind 3 children, Mary, Elizabeth, and Edward each, of whom would rule and continue to grapple with the religious division he had created. England was irrevocably changed by his reign. So, I have a question for you. Was Henry VIII a monster, or a great king who did what was necessary to protect his kingdom? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. See ya in the next story.